3rd Vox Log of Arbites Investigator Velix Awareness 887, 995, and 41. Waking up for a second morning on Ramar 1, I now feel confident that the past 48 hours, while surreal, did in fact happen. While this is my first time on a world other than Firestorm, the similarities between the hive spires there and the dense arcologies burrowed into the permafrost beneath the massive Primus dome are surprisingly many. I guess there are only so many ways you can pack the teeming masses of humanity into so small a space. As I swung my legs over the edge of my rack and pulled myself upwards towards the morning ritual of recaffeination, Bright Eyes made himself known at the door. Upon seeing Hilaire, he gave him some of the consecrated Mechanicus lubricants he'd found the other day as a way of thanks for Blackwater's assistance in picking him up a new piece overnight. Local pattern auto pistol, if I saw it correctly when it changed hands. Pouring up some steaming nectar, my exit into the hallway was suddenly blocked as the Nocturnian trundled into view, demanding to verify the sanctity of the gun oil. While things eventually de-escalated, it seemed such a trifle of a thing to get bent out of shape over. Noticing that the locker we'd kept Ometh pinned up in was both ajar and empty, the Corsair stormed out of the room to drill some Griffin members for his whereabouts. By the time I followed out into the main workspace, most everyone was gnashing on some cubes of reconstituted food that were being handed out by Hellstrix. While the interrogator was nowhere to be seen, nor Strike was present and clacking away at a cogitator, the dark bags beneath his bleary eyes betraying a particularly brutal all-nighter. I asked him about our prisoner, and he gave a grunting gesture towards the staircase, as a muffled bolt pistol report shook loose some dust from the ceiling. Hilaire stormed off to investigate, as the rest of us began to put our heads together regarding the cell's best course of action with the available leads. While the trip out to the Salaworth warehouse was set in stone for today, some thought was given to assessing the involvement of Prince Yankov, potentially sneaking in close by getting hired as a private security detail for some event or function he might attend, all the while tapping his comms and surveilling the company he kept. Enos was able to answer some questions about the Prince's Guild of Laslens manufacturers, specifically noting that it ranks somewhere in the 4,000s of Ramar's gilded 50K. Blackwater then reappeared and let us know of Ometh's fate. He was tortured and then slain by the final member of Griffin, the one Jeremiah Strachan. As we gathered our kit and made to depart for the nearest transit hub, I couldn't help but notice from over the shoulder of the holy man a tarot card depicting a sword held in his fingers. I remember my father's firm conviction that the Emperor's will, even if but the tiniest fraction of it, had a real and tangible influence on those decks. Shuffling out into the ground floor of Mac's Originals, Ometh's corpse was already gone, and Draken sat at a long table absent-mindedly cleaning one of his two bolt pistols that he seems to keep slung at his hip. Clad in a carapace breastplate similar to my own, his fingers also seemed bedecked in several curious rings of rather exquisite make. Adep Garn suggested afterwards that they may be projectors for refractor fields. I strode over and asked for his name and my manacles back. He provided both, but with no further elaboration. Unapproachable doesn't even begin to describe the man. Several hours later, we finished picking our way through the sprawling light industrial districts surrounding our target, Warehouse X827. Giving it a good once-around, it was apparent the entire perimeter was fenced in with a padlocked chain-link gate on the north side, in front of a large loading bay set into the wall of the structure itself. A mass of Vox antennas and other communications equipment was suspiciously clustered atop a flat second-story roof on the south side of the building. The solitary door into the warehouse was present on the east side. Sending in Maxime and Garn while the rest of us took watch around the outside, the glowing-eyed shooter produced a grappling line launcher with which he and the convoy were able to scale up to the roof with. Unable to tap too deeply into the comm clusters from up above, surface-level skimming confirmed the presence of PDF weaponry inside, though, our infiltrators pried off the cover to a ventilation duct, down into which Bright Eyes quickly shimmied. Crawling about the system, suspended from the ceiling of much of the warehouse interior, he relayed the layout of the operation via earpiece and noted the presence of heavily armed ab-humans. At the top of the hour, a different Ogren emerged from the east door and walked a short circuit about the main structure, paying special attention to the loading bays. This tipped us off to the likelihood of a new shipment arriving sometime within the next few hours. During his crawling about, Maxime had spotted a large control room filled with cogitators and comms equipment. We decided to send Adept Garn down, but only on the condition of a sufficient distraction being able to draw attention away from the chamber. Anticipating such a distraction in the form of the suspected delivery, we hunkered down and sat tight. Come noon, a trio of unmarked heavy lorries, whose plates we made note of, pulled up to the front gate, a sprung padlock noted by one of the drivers, before backing into the loading bays. On cue, the infiltration team sent Garn down in the cogitator room, where he began siphoning data from damn near every spool he could get his mitts on. Frustratingly efficient, the warehouse crew finished the unloading quicker than anticipated. An additional patrol emerged from the east door after the trucks left to replace the main gate's lock, and the tech adept was forced to rush his espionage. Alerted by Maxime, who was on overwatch, Garn was only just able to get back into the ducting as an older man, matching Sallaworth's description, entered the chamber with an additional Ogren bodyguard in tow. Hearing a microbead key up from our infiltrators before they had fully egressed from the vents, the target gave the biolocked lockers of the room a full once-over before returning to his workstation, seemingly mollified. The coast clear, Garn and Bright Eyes pulled themselves back out onto the roof before clambering down and shimmying over the perimeter fence. Unable to parse the data he'd lifted on just his data slate, Hire decided to head back to the hideout with Maxime and Tyor. Greybass, Blackwater, and myself remained on site to stake out the warehouse operation for the rest of the day and into the night. Settling into a familiar routine, I quickly set about picking up the team some donuts and recap with the witch's assistance. Dabbing all of this onto my slate has the voidsman looking at me anxiously, though. Looks like he wants to talk. And Vox Log.